Welcome to Badass Banking. I'm Brian Claggett. I am your host. My wife today referred to me as the Howard Stern of banking. Don't know if that's good or not. Today I'm joined with Stessa Cohen. I'm excited to have Stessa on. Now Stessa is in Philadelphia. She has no air conditioning today. It's 1,000 degrees. Which is not a good thing. So a little about Stessa. Stessa is an internationally recognized expert in digital transformation within the global banking industry. Global, that's like the whole world. That's a big deal. I think Ron Shevlin's only domestic. So I'm going to have to give him a hard time about that. You are global. You're also the first woman on the show, which is important to you and important to me. And I picked you because you got a great personality and your knowledge is vast. You also tell it as it is. So you had 20 years at Gartner. Tell us a little about those 20 years.
Well, they were 20 amazing years, from covering check processing to open banking. And it doesn't get more broad or in-depth than that, back office to front office.
And when I was at Geezio and I found you online, or you found me online, and we started talking, then I looked at your LinkedIn profile. You actually were at Core States Financial right after I left. I was there 88 to 92 or 86 to 92. I ran marketing in their New Jersey market with 88 branches, and you were in IT and deposit operations. Was that right?
Alternative delivery.
We didn't even know what alternative delivery was back then.
Well, first I was in, wait a minute. What was I in first? I was in payment processing, check processing. And they had a big processing center at 5th and Market, downtown Center City.
That's where I used to go all the time. That's where the Mac ATM network was housed.
Yeah, and it was a huge branch. It was like the entire half of the first floor of the building. And in the basement was the check processing operations, and the bureaucrats in IT were further up the ladder, upstairs. But I traveled to all the processing sites, and I got to know how checks and payments were processed at a very, very detailed level.
And it's probably frightening, the knowledge that you have.
It is frightening. It is. It has forever disturbed my experience with deposits, point of sale, when it became a philosophical dilemma for me when cashiers used to ask, do you want that as a debit or a credit transaction?
And so little's changed when you think about it, in many ways. We're still talking about alternative delivery. And I try to I tell people it's not alternative. It's the customer delivery. Whatever the customer wants at a given moment in time, they pick the channel, not you and me.
I mean, this is how bankers started looking at anything that wasn't an ATM or a branch was alternative delivery. They accepted home banking as a necessity, but they didn't see it as really an area for growth. And that was before online banking came around. And one of my jobs at Core States was going to all the CXOs and explaining what the internet was, the internet.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we had Al Gore, and he was able to explain that for most of our banker friends.
He wasn't my manager at that point, but...
That might be a good thing. So tell us a little about your newest endeavor. I mean, after 19 years, you made the decision to leave the analyst position as an employee. Now you're out on your own. Tell us what you're up to.
Well, I got this newsletter. I started. It's on Substack, so it's pivotassets.substack.com. It's free, coming out weekly. I just published my first issue, and I'm using it to think even more outside the box and write about things that, I have some time to think about and collect my thoughts and just push the envelope of my thinking and hopefully other people's thinking. The first issue started a couple issue trend looking at disrupting banking from the perspective of having read Rick Wilson's latest book, running against the devil. And I didn't initially think about using this book, but when I read it, I closed and I was like, this is a book about disruption and about how banks have to think about disruption and, totally push against everything that you assume about customers, whether they're people, small business, even large corporates. Think about everything that you assume about your product and how it works and how it responds. And if you can accept those challenges, then you can start to transform. And in fact, the newsletter is geared towards tech and banking vendors primarily. I mean, I think bankers can get a lot out of it, but it's geared towards, I think, a place where people forget the vendors and their attitudes as well in developing products that are truly open. And I think one of the things that Rick Wilson brings to Democrats, and this isn't a political statement, is a total outsider, So if you take a totally contrarian position, can you challenge yourself to think deeply about, segmenting your customers? I talked about hidden tribes last week. Can you really start to look at niches and find people there that can be profitable? It's not going to be everybody.
Right.
But you can dig into profitability, I think, at a better thing. So, that's not going to be the only topic of this newsletter. I have lots of ideas and lots of things I'm planning, cooking up.
Well, that's awesome. I love the concept of, I love the fact that you said, we can't base everything on assumptions. Assumptions, I think, get us in trouble, especially in this industry. And then, I've always been a big proponent of, niche marketing or, one-on-one marketing. And that's where the whole tribe comes in.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fascinating thing. And I'm gonna have to read up more on that. And I think that's something some of your former fellow analysts, the Shevlins, would agree on as well. And I think bank marketers agree on it. They just don't know how to execute upon it. That's a big challenge. So let me ask.
Some of the solutions don't meet that challenge,
Yeah. Well, our solutions are one size fit all often, right?
Right.
Isn't that part of the challenge?
Yeah.
Let me ask a question. So, as you know, the theme of this is badass banking, and I don't want to define that yet. We're too early in its life. Could be a short life. We don't know. What do you think conceivably makes or can make banking badass?
Fearlessness.
Fearlessness. I'm writing that down because I like that a lot.
Fearlessness. Not just speaking your mind, but pushing forward with stuff that may scare you, the organization, the culture, and moving forward with it anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think there's certainly a lot of fear in the industry right now, isn't there?
Yeah, but is it pushing forward true change? Mm-hmm. Is it pushing through faux change? Does it have people running under covers and just saying I can ride out another 2 years and then I can retire? I mean, that's what kind of happened in the check world. Yeah. I was at conferences where people would get up and talk about how checks will never go away.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a contradiction to, the Brett Kings of the world that would tell you that checks are going to go away and that cash is going to go away. Now, for one, I hate writing checks and I hate using cash. My wife, on the other hand, uses both and does both, right?
Yeah. And it's having that fearlessness to say, maybe we're going to support everything like that.
Right.
Or maybe we're going to go out on a limb and do something that not all the other credit unions are doing.
Yep.
For credit unions and community banks, for example, there can be a little bit of that herd mentality. Not a bad thing generally, but how do you stand out?
Yep. Now, can you name a banker that you really admire that you see as kind of badass?
Oh, Jill Castilla.
Jill is often mentioned. Yeah. I'm going to guess it's because of her fearlessness.
Yeah, and she's not afraid to do what people are thinking.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a relatively small bank. Aren't they under 400 million in assets?
I'm not sure, but she projects a much larger bank.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of fearlessness that makes things grow,
Yep.
right? So she could have thought, well, I could never connect to Mark Cuban. He's so big, he's so important. And yet there she is.
Yep.
Or we can't process this many PPP loans as fast. It's too much. My people are working too hard. No. But if I'm fearless as a leader, I can inspire them to do what, they didn't think we could do before,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of goods come from the PPP loan fiasco and whatever you want to call it, experience. I think it's made a lot of community banks really shine. I mean, I'm proud of the banker friends that I know that are out there on the front lines making stuff happen. Many of them were working around the clock. I mean, this was not an easy endeavor. It was not clear from the Fed, and this was virgin ground they were walking on.
I saw this in my community. I bank at a community bank, and I've been working with my branch manager on some paperwork unrelated to PPP or anything else that required seals. I don't want to go into it. It's crazy, right?
Yep, yep.
But, at one point she said, we have to put this off a week because we are working day and night on these loans,
Yep.
I know you have to get this done. It wasn't time sensitive. And I totally respected that. And she was like heads down, but totally in tune. This branch manager, totally in tune with the community, really in tune with the community.
Yeah.
And, they're places where you literally don't see the top 5 banks in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example.
Yep. No, I get that. Let's change gears for a minute. Let's talk for a minute. Go back to your analyst days. Let's talk for a minute about the famous pitch, right?
Uh-huh.
Whether it's a fintech or a vendor that's coming to an analyst, and I bet as an analyst you've heard many pitches. What makes for a good pitch?
A good pitch.
A good pitch.
Follow directions.
Follow directions. Give me a better example.
Well, if you ask me what I want to know about, tell me that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I think a corollary to that is assume I can read. Okay. So you don't have to read to me the first page of the bios and stuff. Shorten stuff up.
Yeah.
Analysts hear tons of pitches. They hear the same information all the time. So they know the first thing that's coming first, second, third, fourth. So this third rule would be mix it up.
Yeah. I always tell startups, focus on the point of pain. Relate to your audience, show them that you understand their point of pain or the industry's point of pain, and then how you answer that point of pain. How are you the medicine to that pain?
And tell me something I don't know. And I can assure you that analysts aren't any different than your prospects.
Right.
They've heard a number of pitches too. And, in the digital banking space, I mean, it was like there's like a template out there. And for clients, my favorite thing to do is say, hey, you're burying the lead all the way down here in slide 32.
Yeah. Yeah. They put all the fluff up front and then they get to the point at the end.
Yeah. And so the next step to that is being fearless and hearing what an analyst has to tell you.
Yep.
That doesn't make sense to me. Sounds like BS.
Yeah.
Where don't take it as an insult.
Yeah. So living in Philadelphia, tell us a little about what's changed in your life due to this whole COVID situation we're in.
Well, what hasn't changed? Not going out, which is not a problem for me. I've worked from home for like 20 years. Hard to keep teenagers in though.
Oh boy, so it's tough with the kids, isn't it? Yeah, the kids are a pain.
There's no pool this year. We had curfews, haven't had them for a couple weeks now. So that was exciting, curfews. And now the fireworks, although those seem to have died down since the 4th. And everybody's really cautious and actually a lot of kindness too.
Yeah.
You'll be walking down the street in your mask and people will say hi and nod. you
Yeah.
know, because it's like, yes, we know this is really awful and we can't stop and talk even if we don't know you, but we're going to say hi anyway. So that's a really nice thing about Philadelphia. You know, the restaurant scene is, you know, we're able to pick up food from all these great restaurants that we never would have gone to.
Let's not forget the cheesesteaks.
No cheesesteaks.
Is it Pat's or Jim's or Steve's?
I live in Northwest Philly. It's D'Alessandro's.
Oh no. Okay. Boy. Oh boy. Well, listen
South
with that.
Philly is another world.
Yeah. With that note, we're gonna have to end this call right now, okay? Because we're not seeing eye to eye on cheesesteaks.
I'll send you one from Pat or Gino's if you want.
Well, I'm going to get up there this summer. I need a road trip. I need to get out of town, you know, because I'm in the same boat. It's tough being here. When I was at GZ, I worked from home, although I did have an office and a small staff down here in Virginia. I do need to get out more often. On the weekend, I'm at the River Place, so that's kind of nice. Hence
Yeah.
the farmer outfit. Listen, I appreciate your time today. I think what you're doing is awesome. I'm going to post a link to obviously your LinkedIn profile. I think everyone who watches this already knows you, but I'm also going to post a link to your email address so they can subscribe to your newsletter, because I thought it was an awesome first newsletter. Frankly, I don't know why you're giving it away for free. I think we work up to a pay model where you do the freemium model,
Yeah.
but there's something to be said for it. Any last words before I go, other than about cheesesteaks?
No, stay cool this summer, stay safe, and it's always great talking with you, Brian.
It's always great talking to you. So next up on the show is going to be Sarah Cook. She'll be on in, I think, tomorrow. I don't know if I'll edit and record right away, but Sarah is the former editor and publisher of CU Times. So that ought to be interesting. So I wanted to bring another woman on. And again, she's got some great insight. I don't know what I'll use for virtual background there. She's in the Maryland area, so maybe some crabs or something. Not really sure. So Stessa, again, thank you very much. I appreciate it. For those of you that are on, make sure you like, subscribe, dislike, comment. It's all about engagement. I don't care if you're a hater or not. Say or do what you want. This channel is your channel. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you, Stessa.
Bye. Thank you.